Don't you want it? 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 You lose your little mind. My dead lives.
Welcome to the Deadlights podcast, Mini. I'm your host, Mini Sam.
I'm little Mini Leslie, bringing you your little mini dose of mini doses.
Tiny little mini dose of horror.
It's just like a little tablet size, you know?
A little shot.
A little shot.
Little
Oh,
shot.
speaking of shot.
Hey, speaking of shot, where did I put it? Oh, it's actually right behind you. Speaking of shot,
Sponsored by.
my
My
Lord. Yes.
My lord.
My Lord.
Just straight out the bottle, you crazy maniac. Okay.
Your turn.
I know, you're my ride or die.
Here we go. Oh, yeah, there you go. That's a good pull. Nice. Perfect.
I think that was less than a shot, but that's
That's
fine.
okay. We'll take one later.
Well, yeah, we'll take one.
So the reason we just took a shot of Malort is because today's minisode is about things that shoot. In some cases. Today we're going to talk about the weapons that are used in horror movies.
Yes.
And just kind of our thoughts on some of our favorite, most creative kind of weapons that we can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see where this goes.
Oh.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
yes. Ooh, we know that's what you're doing. We know you're doing that on the other end.
I know you are. I know you are. I'm there with you.
I mean, I think that especially thinking about slasher movies, specifically like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th, I think those movies kind of kicked off like the weapon of choice of these killers, and that kind of became, in some cases, the signature of some of these killers. You always think of the knife with Michael, and also the axe with Jason, and then obviously the finger knives with Freddy. They're just like became such a huge part of what made some of these characters so scary. And you immediately recognize these characters sometimes.
But it's also like they're items that you have around in your house.
Mm-hmm.
You have a butcher's knife in your house. You're gonna have a freaking axe if you are around the woods, which these movies tend to be shot and filmed and shit. Because I never needed an axe. Like, I never seen an axe in somebody's house because I lived in the desert. So it's interesting to like maybe kind of see what's around your home to kind of inspire what you would use at that moment.
Those are also things where unless you saw them in this like kind of scary context, you wouldn't otherwise think of it. Like, an axe makes sense like in your shed for working on tools and that kind of stuff, but after you watch Friday the 13th, you can't look at an axe without thinking, holy shit, like
this can decapitate somebody's chop your head off.
Chop your head off. That's all it does. Chop your head off.
Chop your head off.
Yeah. And you're right. Like it puts things in a new context that you would have had not thought of before. That's what makes some of these weapons of choice so scary.
Yeah, and speaking on that, of like, I worked at a retail store, and one thing that was told to me that it was put into my perspective was that we have clear plastic bags in retail just in case there isn't somebody that's trying to like fill a bag with clothes and have it be like a trash bag and throw it out and then come back and get it later. It blew my mind because I don't have that perspective. I'm not trying to steal things. So she's like, yeah, I know this of you. That's why I want you to be a manager. And I'm like, oh shit, like, okay. But like, yeah. So you don't, even though to some people now, a sharp object is going to be used as a weapon. Sometimes you're like, oh shit, but like. I didn't know.
Well, and it's
to use it that way.
interesting too, I think, kind of going back to when you mentioned, like, you lived in the desert, you really haven't seen an axe that much. It changes. Like, I think some people have very personal experiences with certain objects or certain things, which then changes how you view them and how they're used in not just horror movies, but any movie at all. So your personal experience with certain things is being brought to that movie experience too. And that could make it less scary or more scary, depending on what it is. So I think it's interesting too, like, looking at how we each personally view these things in our own lives can possibly make it scarier and how they use it.
I listen to a lot of true crime as well. And the things that, and they like bring this up. I listen to, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it before in one of these, My Favorite Murder. And a lot of the time, because they're ladies that have done TV or have written for TV shows. And one of her thought process is always like, if this serial killer was turned into a fictional character, what he's doing right now would be too much. Like, I recently heard of the eyeball killer, and what it was is that he would murder ladies, like usually prostitutes, and then scoop up their eyeballs, but like with the like X-Acto knife, just like absolutely just like carved in there, to the point where people were like, we are dealing with like a person that is skilled with a knife, and they were thinking doctor or whatever. So like even things like that, like art supplies and like,
well, and that too, I think, goes back to, like you said, that was too much to even put in a movie. Like, that's too scary almost, or too far for even someone like Michael Myers or Freddy or Jason to go.
Scoop up. Yeah.
Like, that's, the real humans are even scarier. And that kind of goes back to what...
That's what I love.
Yeah.
I fucking love just how demented the human brain can be. To me, that is the scariest monster. It's us. And that's why I adore psychological films. Because,
yeah. Well, now I can't look at an X-Acto knife the same anymore. So, thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have one at home.
Oh, God. And he woke up with no eyes.
The fucking monster from...
She put my eyes in my hands.
She's a monster.
So when you think of... Because obviously you do listen to a good amount of true crime, so I think we can kind of include that in this too. Are there any specific movies or stories where the weapon of choice was especially like, ugh, that's fucking crazy?
To me, poison is very interesting because it is one that you can't really detect until the person dies or until they're taken to a hospital. And it is a very like Black Widow or type, like it's a very female type of like death, unless it's a doctor that's doing that to you. Because it's something about it being slow and kind of stretched out, and you just kind of seeing this person. I sound demented. Yeah, I sound crazy.
This episode's gonna make us sound crazy.
I know.
But you're right too, like, because
bear with us.
Think about, like, as a person who's poisoning someone, you know that poison is in there. You get to watch them ingest the poison, knowing the whole time what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
and it's almost like getting off on that, like, I get to watch you unknowingly take this thing and almost kill yourself.
There was a serial killer too that there were multiple people that I think he was either like a teacher or something at some source, where he had a desk, and in his drawer he had a cake that was rotting, and every day he would just take it out and just watch it rot, and he would just watch it. And I think that's just such a creepy, psychotic thing, because he just wanted to see how like things broke down. And that went into how he like murdered and stuff.
Mm.
So
Was he a poisoner as well?
he wasn't a poisoner, but he was fucked up. He was fucked up. I can't really fucking pinpoint who it was. I'm really bad with names too, even though I listened to multiple stories several times from different viewpoints. But yeah, I think that's a very creepy character trait.
And you're right. We usually within films we see poison used by women, and I also think too about like we saw it in The Sixth Sense with like the Munchausen by proxy, where they are keeping someone sick, slow, and it's a control thing too because you're controlling this person's health literally, and it's to me just like this very much like power hungry, narcissistic kind of mode of murder.
Yeah, you're trying to eliminate the problem without actually having to drive a knife that will end the person's life immediately. You're trying to make it as methodical as possible, so then that way it looks clean, it looks purposeful. They died because they were sick. Yeah, essentially.
It gives you like a separation, somewhat of a separation from, like you said, the actual act, where almost you can rationalize it. Like, I am not the poison. No. I just happen to put the poison in
there. It could have been the nurse that was taking care of her that I hired. Yeah. You know? But you're the one that, like, is giving the nurse the thing.
Yeah. Those are the creepy, really creepy stories that I hear of, like, the nurses that are, you know, keeping people sick in the hospitals, killing them, old people in the hospital, and no one knows, you know? It's just, like, natural causes. You know?
It's like they love having the power of ending someone's life.
What do they call them? Angels of death.
Angels of death.
Yeah. Creepy. Yeah, poison. Shit. That's a good one. That's poison. I mean, not a good one, but a creepy one.
Yes.
One that I always think of is, and this is kind of like specific to a film, and that's in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Obviously, the chainsaw is very scary because of the noise.
The fucking noise.
That's what gets you, because you know it's coming, and this idea of being like ground up in like the fucking chains, like that can't.
That will go through your limbs immediately.
And that has to be a painful death. Like there's no way of getting around how painful that could be. You know, it's just like it's so mechanical and just so seems slow.
Yeah, have you seen a tree being chopped with a chainsaw? And imagine your fragile little body.
Butter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Woo! So that movie obviously uses the chainsaw as a very creepy way of death. Also, another thing in that movie that I like and I'm terrified of are the meat hooks that he uses. You know, it's like he's... the meat hooks are, you know, themselves just a hook that is hanging on a wall that we use to put like cow meat and all that kind of stuff. But then when a person is being shoved up there, just the idea of you hanging and your own weight is what is just driving this thing.
And the thing is, like, your bones will not allow that for your body to fall apart. If it weren't for your bones, you would be able to like slip off of that after a little bit. But your bones are there. Yeah. They're strong.
And this idea too that it's like, this is used for us to hang our meat that we cook with. Now it's being turned back on you, and now you're hanging on it.
You're the meat.
You're the meat. Yeah, and he could keep you hanging there for...
until you rot.
As long as you want, you know? Until you rot away, And that movie, to me, just does a lot of things with meat, you know? And that's kind of what it's talking about, slaughterhouses, all that kind of stuff. We're in the slaughterhouse there, you know? And also the fact, too, of it's dirty.
Yeah, it looks like it smells.
It smells. It's got rust on it. All these, the chainsaw,
it's claustrophobic as well, even though it's a big space, but it's filled to the rim with shit.
Usually meat. And you know that meat's rotten. Yeah, it takes those images and just makes them even scarier than what they are, because they're about to be used on you.
And this movie is so iconic that every Halloween there's someone in the neighborhood as you are trick or treating, with all the gear of the meathead and like going around with the chase off.
Yep, that's that noise. I remember being going to Fright Fest at Six Flags, and it was my first year there. I was probably in middle school, and we were doing like the haunted walk or whatever. And it was this area that was labeled bathroom. So I was like, oh, like this is just like a break from a bathroom.
Oh no!
And so I'm like going up to the bathroom out of nowhere. A guy who's dressed as Leatherface comes around the corner. I almost shit my pants. Literally almost shit my pants. Scared the shit out of me. Oh my god! But I heard it first, and I was like, I heard you hear the first, and you're like, what the? And then you see the guy, and you're like, ah! Oh my god! Horrifying.
Oh god!
Absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
Another one that I want to kind of shout out to is the finger gloves in Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that is...
It's iconic.
It's iconic for sure. You know, once you see the finger gloves, who that belongs to. It's Freddy's.
If you didn't know.
If you didn't know. But it becomes... Because weapons were objects before. Now it's actually part of him. Like, it's on his hand.
Yeah.
And so, no matter what, he is a dangerous character. So, because he's built to kill. This finger glove gives him the knives that he is going to use to kill. And I think that is such a... The image is terrifying, and the idea is also terrifying. And I gotta, just applaud the filmmakers for coming up with that idea. Because I think it's inherently scary. And he can use those fingers to scratch on metal. Like, not only is...
awful sound.
Not only is he using it to kill the people, he's using it to torment the people. And really scary. Really scary. Again, one of my favorite horror movies, but also horror characters, and partly is because of those finger gloves.
I want to also give a little shout out to anything that decapitates people. Anything. In Hereditary.
In The Omen.
In The Omen.
Yeah.
In any of the Final Destination movies.
Do love a good head lob.
Oh yeah.
Love
Clean off.
Yeah.
Like I heard that you could feel it for like a second. But like when you are in those kind of situations, things do appear to move slow. And you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. Mm-hmm. So then as soon as like cool, and you're like, oh fuck, and then die.
And it's also this like somewhat medieval way, because the guillotine and cutting your head off and like executions. It's very, very final, because you can't live without your head. So it's a very final kind of death. And
chickens kind of can.
Kind of.
I mean, they're not alive, but they're just like their little nerves and stuff. They're like,
yeah. But yeah, it's like, when a head lob is happening, that person's dead. And when it's done well, it's very cool.
And the practical effect that goes into doing that, and making a head look realistic, and making just the action of it being cut off is just nice.
Good job, head lob.
Nice.
So, completely hypothetically speaking, if you were in your own horror movie, I don't know, what's your weapon of choice?
If I was a serial killer?
Sure.
I would want...
Disclaimer, we don't actually want to kill anybody before we talk about this.
Absolutely. And then we're not encouraging you to go out and do any of this. This is all just filmmaking.
Film. Yeah, this is a film about us. This is real life.
This is not real life.
Yeah.
I think I would go absolutely psychotic and use the human mind to try to get back into making the person just lose their sanity.
Oh, damn. So not even really a physical weapon? More like mind games?
Just mind games.
Damn. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, and that is another thing that we didn't even really talk about is, I mean, thinking about movies like Saw or, I'm just trying to think of like these manipulators, you know, who are, again, separating themselves from the actual act, but they are manipulating you into situations. I mean, Damien is kind of like that too. Kind of that mind control thing where you kill yourself, but it's because of the influence that you're putting on other people. Yeah. It's terrifying.
It is. Because you can't fucking control that, or you can't really prove that to people.
Because you killed yourself.
That wasn't me.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like a suicide, so it's a suicide.
And it's like how the power of like the person to be able to manipulate someone to that level is shit. That's a really scary person.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I'm not this kind of person, okay, folks? I'm just saying that that's scary. So, that would be my weapon.
So my weapon, I remember when I was in film school, I went onto a set, and they were actually building the set, and there was this hammer. It wasn't like a normal hammer. It's called a framing hammer, and it's like the size of the hammer itself, like the head is like pretty normal, but the neck is way longer. So it's a hammer about that long, and so it's so that when you swing it, it's coming down with like way more power. Oh. And so I remember seeing that and being like, that would make a really, really scary killer. Like just the look of it made me scared of it. And if someone's coming at you with that thing, first of all, it's got reach. And also this idea of blunt force trauma is way worse to me than like stabbing is.
Yeah. Stabbing's awful.
I mean, it's both terrible. Yeah. Obviously, lesser of two evils. But this blunt kind of just like hitting you over the head with this thing.
This is so fragile, you know? So like to get it hit.
And especially with a long ass hammer. That would be probably my choice, only because when I saw it for the first time, I was scared of it. Yeah. And it wasn't even in a scary context. I was on a set where people were actually using it for what it's meant to be used for. And I saw it, I was like, that thing's scary.
Don't come near me.
Don't come near me with that hammer.
What I'm laughing about is because when you said it had reach, for some reason I just pictured this character. The protagonist is like hiding in a corner, and there's like the corner right here, and you just come over and you're like,
reach, gotcha. Corners ain't gonna stop me. Killer Sam is coming with his framing hammer. Hell yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Again. And we don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. No, think of it as us in a movie.
This is just all pretend.
It's all pretend.
And fantasy.
I'm hitting a very well made, practically head. Very well put together head. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful effect.
Real eyelashes, but not plucked from a person. It was just kind of like real hair made into eyelashes.
Have we convinced you that we're not crazy?
We're not crazy.
Have we convinced you?
People.
Help.
I mean, but also the people that are listening to this probably have thought about this several times. On. Yeah.
Let's go, y'all.
So what's your weapon of choice?
What is your weapon of choice? Let us know. Let us know. Well, I think let's get over our sponsor again and
absolutely
and shoot this episode out.
Edit all of this. Make me look cool.
Take 3. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah. To the shot.
To Malort. Those are big swings that you're taking. I remember taking a big swing. Woo! My mouth is watering. I'm crazy.
We're from Chicago, by the way. If we haven't mentioned that before, and that's why you can't find Malort where you are, because none of our listeners are in Chicago, obviously.
We got a few in there. But yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Malort, you got bought out.
Thank you, Malort.
We miss you.
We miss you. We love you.
We love you.
That was a little fun episode.
Yeah, that
little
was fun.
Fucked up episode.
I a little crazy.
In our world, fun and fucked up go hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand.
Yes. Thank you.
They marry at the end.
Mwah. You may kiss the fucked up. Mini plug.
You can follow me on Instagram, Color Me Leslie.
And me at BPPritchyT. You can see us at the Deadlights Pod.
Yep.
Also check out
there.
Playground Social, which is the studio that we're recording this at.
Yes, they're funny. Everybody.
We have fun around here.
Yeah.
We got fun.
We do.
But until next minisode.
Let's get
Mini
mini spooky.
spooky.
I will use this now to kill Sam.
Oh no!